Hey y'all, welcome back to the party. It is me, your girl BrittReacts, and today we're gonna react to Miss AMALA talking to us about not believing Mark Zuckerberg. Let's find out why.
So our boy Mark Zuckerberg and Meta are changing their tune now on censorship and misinformation, and they're going to be loosening the reins on these issues. The reins that they've been holding for how long as they censored everybody on their platform. Well, now he's put a video out online where he explains to the public the changes he's going to be making so that you can have free speech on his platforms. And today we're going to react to it and see what's going on. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Yes, today we're going to be reacting to none other than Mark Zuckerberg, who is making changes at Meta in regard to censorship and misinformation. He now suddenly cares about free speech. And we're going to get into Mark Zuckerberg's history on his different platforms and how censorship and misinformation have been going on those platforms. But first, let's hear from him as he's making this sudden change ahead of another Trump administration.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political. But there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
Okay. Pause. I don't know
Pause.
why I need to use that accent, but
I'm gonna pause too. I chuckled just a little bit because I did run across Josh Johnson's. I don't know. It was like, I think I saw it on Instagram. It was a reel where he went in on Zuckerberg's look, his outfit alone for 60 seconds, and I just can't unsee it. Like the little baby chain, the loose fitting t-shirt, it all feels like, did he have a hood makeover? I just am very confused. I can't unsee it. I wish I would have not watched that before I got to dive into this, because I cannot unsee it. All right, it's Miss AMALA's turn, and by the looks of it, she's not buying any of it.
okay. Pause. I don't know why
I love that
accent, but what is he talking about? Suddenly, Mark Zuckerberg is using phrases like legacy media, and this guy was working in tandem, it seemed, with mainstream media and our government to censor information, shadow ban people, and to tamp down misinformation on all of his platforms. And suddenly, he wants to make a change and go back to his roots of free speech because he made a speech about that at Georgetown once. I gotta remind you guys, this is the guy who's been censoring you for how long? And now the tune is changing. And of course, it's a win to some degree, right? It's great that we can now go on these platforms, at least presumably, and start to vocalize our opinions without being punished by the overlords that run the platforms. But what about all that time where you were doing that? Now he's saying we just built too complex of a system, and that complex system just happened to make a bunch of mistakes. But it seemed like in the past you were talking about
way to
how
not
your system
own
was
it,
working
buddy.
swimmingly. In fact, working swimmingly with the U.S. government is they were telling you, their agencies at least, telling you what information you should censor from the public. I'm going to remind you guys of the Hunter Biden laptop because Homeboy went on Joe Rogan and was like, hey, the FBI reached out to me when this Hunter Biden story was going out there and people were finding out what was on this man's laptop, and they told me to really get a hold of that information and make sure too many people weren't seeing it. And he did exactly that for days at a time at the request of a federal agency. But it's just a complex system that makes mistakes. Okay.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump
Similar
first
to
got
X.
elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second,
Before we get to second,
She and I keep wanting to stop at the same time. So essentially he's saying like, when it pops up, when you post something and it's like, this has not been, I don't know, confirmed or whatever, it fact checks it and says like, there's no fact here. Now they're saying they're going to allow community people to leave notes. Is that what I'm to understand, or am I just... Listen, somebody commented recently on one of my videos reacting to AMALA reacting, saying like, why don't I just react to the original video? The fact of the matter is, one, I really enjoy the way she's able to break things down and simplify them for me to understand. I think she's so... you can tell she does her research. She digs, she finds all these things, and then she presents them in a way that really helped me, I think, understand. I'm not a journalist. I'm not in like that arena. And to be quite frank, I don't even really enjoy watching the news often. So to take my time and, or pretend to act like I know everything that's going on is foolish. So to me, I can get kind of the tea from videos, right? Like the source, and then also get a full breakdown. And to me, she feels very unbiased. I feel the same way about Shoe on Head. Like, sure, they have a bias, but I think they do a good job of presenting all fronts and almost playing the devil's advocate without trying to persuade you. I haven't left a video of either of these women and been like, oh, they swayed me. I think it's, if anything, it's been like, oh, that opened my eyes. Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't understand that before. Now I get it. So that's just to answer your question. So I'm excited to see how she breaks this down, because again, I'm like, so are you telling me?
especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second,
before we get to second, do you really think this man and those working at Meta tried in good faith to get a hold on misinformation? I'm going to remind each and every one of you of what we went through during a certain pandemic, where if you tried to share any information at all that was dissident to what the experts were telling you when they said follow the science, that was gone. Nobody was able to see it. People were getting completely deplatformed, shadow banned, being labeled as misinformers on all of his platforms for trying to share information that we would come to find was not conspiratorial and false, but actually true. But he was doing all of this in good faith because of a genuine concern within legacy media and the government about misinformation. You know, and I'm happy to hear these changes. I'm happy that these changes are being informed by other places where we've seen it work, like X, although that's, you know, going back and forth right now in its own controversy that we'll get to in another video. But we all just meant to like wipe our minds and
forget that happened.
the fact that he was largely responsible for so much censorship.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the footage of him in the courtrooms and his employees in the courtrooms pretty much being chewed out about the fact that like, you guys are not medical, you have no like medical certification to be out here banning and blocking things. We've seen that. And, you know, she's saying like a lot of, basically, if you were not on the side of the Fauci and anything Fauci, I feel like I always say his name wrong because it just is such a like fun name to say. If you weren't agreeing with what was coming out from Fauci and his reports and things like that, and you had any other take, you were misinforming the internet. And so then you were pretty much punished on the platforms that Meta oversees. And then it would come out and like, you know, it went from being, you must quarantine for 10 days, you must quarantine for 7 days, you must quarantine for 5 days, you must quarantine for 3 days. Actually, you don't have to quarantine. You must wear a mask. You can't wear a mask. You should wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Only wear a mask in. You know what I mean? And it was like, this is all that people were saying. So yeah, I mean, that can be frustrating because like, are we supposed to forget all of that and just be like, oh, the systems, we're going to blame the systems. I don't know. Is that what we're supposed to do?
On all of these big tech platforms, he was the big tech overlord that was keeping you from being able to speak your mind freely. But now that the big man Donald Trump is going to be back in office, suddenly we care again about free speech and expression and a lack of censorship. Okay, you know, again, glad
the timing.
These are people moving in the right direction, but I'm not going to forget the direction that you came from.
Oh,
we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
Okay.
She's
Guys,
cracking up.
I can't take this. We're gonna lift the load that we've been putting on immigration and gender now that we've already gone through the throes of the political battles on those subject matters, and you guys have vocalized your opinion through voting. Not to mention all the election interference that we did through, you know, widening certain stories and putting them out to the public and then closing down on other stories and making sure people didn't see it. But now that you guys overcame all of the censorship, all of the tamping down of misinformation that we did here at Meta,
now it's time for a change.
We're going to allow you to see the things that you've actually been speaking about. We're going to allow you to vocalize your concerns at the point where it doesn't matter anymore. And we see this all the time, you know, like people who are pushing leftist ideology when it's comfortable and when it's the mainstream narrative. And then as soon as there's a change in a power shift in these different ideas and on the agenda, they go, oh, well, I guess I don't have to do that anymore.
Listen, the bottom line is money will make anyone move anyway. You know what I mean? Like there's too much to lose here for Mark Zuckerberg not to make this change. There's too much to lose. And again, with Trump being inaugurated today, like they had to figure this out because Trump was like coming for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there's too much money to lose. There's too much stake. There's too much at stake to like stay the course. And this is not an archaic thing. It's like people are going to go where the money is. People are going to go where the tide, you know what I mean? Like the tide is going like this. Now, if Biden would have won again, would this still be a conversation? I don't know. That is not our reality. So who's to say? But I will say the timing is very interesting. Very interesting. I also just want to know, her lashes look so good. And I don't think it's a strip. I think these are individuals. Shout out to her lash girl because they are perfect cat eye lashes. And they're not too thick and heavy like these girlies like to wear. Like I can't stop staring at her lashes. Maybe I should get some. I'm a plucker. And I wear contacts, so anything interfering with my eyeball. Y'all have seen me on this channel before, like in the camera, like, can you see it?
And it's only because you now live in a comfortable environment where you can do these things and where you can stand up for the principles that everybody else has been standing up for when it was uncomfortable.
Ooh.
What started as a movement to be more inclusive has
fired
increasingly
up.
been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far. So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations...
Now we're going to focus on illegal and high-severity violations. Now? Where have your priorities lied? It's literally one of those things where it's like, how is this not banned? Like I see stuff like that all the time on my feed. It's like, how am I looking at this? But then when I go to click this, it's a free for all.
We're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters
Someone
make
must
mistakes,
report
and they
it
take down a lot of
before-
content that they
okay.
shouldn't.
I don't
So
know
by
about
dialing
that.
them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms.
This is really
He
brilliant.
literally
I mean,
looks like
whoever wrote
Justin
this speech for
Timberlake
him,
from
'cause I
2000.
can guarantee you it wasn't him, is doing a very interesting job in labeling these things as mistakes. We built these really great systems that were working, and if you got censored for a certain political opinion, it was simply a mistake. It wasn't like we were actively finding these subject matters and finding the
shutting
people
them
who were
down.
sharing them and making sure they got censored and deplatformed. It was simply a mistake. Now, of course, he can argue that this is just semantics. A mistake is a mistake nonetheless. Even if we knowingly made a mistake, it's a mistake nonetheless. But you can see how he is interpreting this and how he wants the public to interpret what he's saying.
We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back
Accidentally.
civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it
Who's the community? Who asked to see less political content because it was making them stressed? And community is a really brilliant word to make it seem like it was somewhat of a collective effort of everybody on the platform who wanted to see less of this content, when in reality, it was a fringe group.
I will say, I am someone who gets so overstimulated and overwhelmed by all of the political talk and all the points of views on social media. So perhaps I am one of those people that fall into that category, but nobody ever asked me. I never filled out a survey. So I don't think I'm in that community. I just shut the apps down when I feel overwhelmed. I'm like, I can't today. I can't anymore, right? Like, but how did y'all know I was stressed? How'd you know? How'd you know, Mark?
Of left-leaning activists and fact-checkers that were pushing this agenda forward. Again, the interesting writing here.
It feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get
New
feedback
era.
that people want to see this content again. So
You're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. You haven't been in a back and forth battle with everybody who's been trying to promote free speech on your platforms for God knows how long at this point. You're starting to get feedback. Was the feedback the 2024 election, where America overwhelmingly told everybody here that we want Donald Trump back in office so that we can speak our minds again? Is that the starting to get feedback that you're referring to?
we're going to start phasing this back into
Yikes.
Facebook, Instagram, and Threads while working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote
Why does
free
that
expression,
matter?
I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams.
Oh, okay.
Finally,
Okay.
we're going to
Yeah, it's bias. It's not anything to do with money or profit or the fact that California is a literal shithole right now for people's businesses. Okay.
work
And the timing of this is she filmed this before the fires, so don't come for her. But yeah, I mean, I think I that's why I was kind of confused. Again, this is why I like watching content like this, because I wouldn't have been able to put that together, because maybe I'm just not that smart girl. Okay, my smarts are in other places. But yeah, that makes so much sense. Like, no, we got to get up out of California, because again, we're losing money. There's a threat to us and how we are eating and paying our bills and driving our nice cars and living in our mansions. So we're gonna get up and move to Texas, girl, where the real estate is 3,000 times cheaper. You know what I'm saying? Like, the rent at the office is way cheaper. The lease is way less expensive. We're gonna go to Texas.
Or the fact that California is a literal shithole right now for people's businesses. Okay.
work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an
Constitutional protections that we completely overlooked in all of my time at Meta up until this point, where Donald Trump is now president, and because he's president, I'm going to be working with him. Now, I beg your finest pardon, guys. I beg your finest pardon. If Kamala Harris had won this last election, do you think we'd be watching this video right now? do you think we would hear a peep out of Mark Zuckerberg about the fact that he's going to really loosen the reins on censorship and coming down on misinformation on his platforms? And we all know it's not even misinformation at this point. It's just people's opinions and often facts about what's actually going on. Do you think we'd be hearing this right now? No. And at the same time, but he's putting Dana White on his like board of trustees or something like that. Let me pull it up so I can read exactly where he's going to be, and you guys can see this as
fighter
well.
Guy.
Dana White says, "I'm excited to kick off the year with some news we've been working on for a while. Dana White, John Elkman, and Charlie Songhurst are joining Meta's board of directors. Sorry, not trustees. Board of directors. We have massive opportunities ahead in AI, wearables, and the future of social media, and our board will help us achieve our vision."
Yeah, the
Now, mind
UFC.
you, when Donald Trump won this last election, who was on stage during his little victory speech? Was it not Dana White? And now Dana White is going to be sitting on the board of directors at Meta. And we all know like Mark Zuckerberg's been getting into like jujitsu and UFC, and he was going to fight Elon Musk or whatever. So maybe this is the fitness to alt-right pipeline working, and Mark Zuckerberg's really gone through an awakening as he's grappling in jujitsu. But I have a feeling something else is going on. And the fact that you're now going to be working with Donald Trump and Dana White's going to be on your board of directors, really interesting. So either you're like a spineless coward who has no actual opinions on this, and you just go wherever the wind takes you, and when it's a left-leaning administration, you're totally fine with censoring anybody who they disagree with, and when it's a right-leaning one, you're just going to move in whatever direction they move in, or you actually have first principles that dictate that you care about free speech, and you are willing.
Man, all Mark Zuckerberg want to do is buy his wife nice things, get her custom stuff, throw her parties. That's all he wants. That's why he's trying to keep the bag. He's trying to keep his wife happy, okay? So he's going to do whatever he needs to do. A happy wife is a happy life. Y'all know this? Y'all know this. Didn't he just like custom create a Porsche for his wife? A Porsche that doesn't exist on the planet except for her? Didn't he just have like a 70s themed birthday party for this lady? I'm just saying. I don't think it's even this complicated. I think the man just wants to be popular. He wants to be popular. And that's the cool kid table right now is the Trump administration. So he gonna do what he got to do. You hear me? Do y'all understand what I'm saying? All right. I'm gonna let her finish.
To throw those first principles out the window because of who was in power, which either way makes you a spineless coward.
An ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship
If it quacks like a
and
duck,
making it difficult to build anything innovative.
quack, quack.
There. Latin American countries.
I'm sorry, I can't get over it. He literally looks like, bye, bye, bye. I really want to make it tough. I just want to tell you that I had enough. Like, he literally looks like Justin, about to say Bieber, Justin and JC, like, smashed together. This is too much. It's too much. He should have had a, forget whoever wrote it. Did we get a stylist in here? Who put this
Making it
together?
difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has
now he's just throwing everybody under the bus. We're just going to throw everybody under the bus.
Now we have the opportunity to restore free expression, and I am excited to take it. It'll take time to get this right.
What is that weird thing he does with his mouth? This is like one of those things where it's like if you read into the body language, it's giving fake.
And I am excited to take it.
What is that?
Time to get this right, and these are complex systems. They're never going to be perfect. There's also a lot of illegal stuff that we still need to work very hard to remove. But the bottom line is that after years of having our content moderation work focus primarily on removing content, it is time to focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our systems, and getting back to our roots about giving people voice. I'm looking forward to this next chapter. Stay good out there, and more to come soon.
Stay good out there.
Brilliant speechwriter. Whoever put this together. Very brilliant. You couldn't have found a more tactful way to say that I have no principles, but now that the government that's coming in seems to have principles, which we'll see how that plays out, and we'll see if they follow through on their promises. I'm willing to go ahead and push forward the idea of free speech. He literally says it at the end there, that even the US government was finding itself in the pitfall of having to censor its citizens and pushing big tech and big tech overlords to do exactly that. But now that the government is moving in another direction, I'm comfortable also moving in that other direction.
Popular.
Wild, wild, wild.
He wants to
I don't
be
know if this deserves
popular.
any sort of round of applause other than the ones I just gave the speechwriter, who very artfully put together this little bit of...
It certainly isn't the stylist. The stylist gets no round of applause. Girl. Oh, who approved the look? Because it's bad.
propaganda for you. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens
Comical.
on these platforms.
Comical.
We'll see the changes that are made, and we'll celebrate a small win where there is a small win. But this is one step forward in a society that has had us 100 steps back on all of these issues for how long now? And no accountability taken for that. He, in fact, justifies what he has been doing for years now
It's
in
the
regard to
systems.
the information shared
They're
on his platform,
imperfect.
and just said, hey, you know, it was at the request of the government. It's how things were moving. Only suddenly have we been getting requests from the public to move in any other direction, and I'm just honoring those requests because that's what we do here at Meta. Okay, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. If you are Meta users, let me know if you recognize any changes on the platform. And do we think Mark, it really is a free speech absolutist, or he cares about these ideas and he was just, you know, suppressed by the US government all of this time that he was censoring people? Or do we think he's just following the market? And right now the market is telling him we want a Donald Trump administration, and a Donald Trump administration emphasizes free speech. You let me know down below. I honestly don't know at this point, and it really doesn't matter either way, considering he'll just go wherever people tell him to go.
Yikes.
But drop your thoughts down below. As always, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, do get out, but do so respectfully. We encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every single day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
She's great. I found that to be very funny. All right, do what the lady said. Subscribe, do all the things, leave a comment, like it, share it, press the bell on her videos and mine. You know the vibes. We can have all the conversation, all the differing opinions, but if we can't keep it kind, you can't keep it here. All right, I love you guys. Go and have the day you deserve. Bye.